Walk down almost any suburban street built between the wars and you will see it. A rough stony render pressed onto the outside of the house, grey or brown or the colour of wet sand, catching the light differently to every other wall in the country. Pebbledash was never meant to be loved, it was meant to be practical. Cheap to apply, forgiving of bad brickwork, able to survive weather that stripped paint and cracked plaster within a decade. Between 1919 and 1939, Britain built over 4 million new homes, and a huge proportion of them wore this same rough coat. It became the unofficial uniform of the semi-detached suburb, stretched from Surrey to Sunderland with almost no variation. This is not a story about a building material. It is a story about how a nation solved a housing crisis so fast that appearance stopped being the point. By November 1918, the end of the First World War left Britain facing a staggering housing deficit. Estimates placed the immediate shortfall between 600,000 and 800,000 homes, driven by years of suspended construction, overcrowding, and the rapid return of millions of servicemen. On November 24, 1918, Prime Minister David Lloyd George turned this emergency into a moral duty, promising a country fit for heroes to live in. This pledge became law with the Housing and Town Planning Act on July 31, 1919. Known as the Addison Act, it required local authorities to build 500,000 municipal homes within 3 years, funded by central government subsidies. These new estates were designed around the Tudor Walters principles, which mandated low-density layouts, gardens, and generous natural light. But the ambitious target collided with economic reality. Only 213,000 houses were completed before the Treasury curtailed the subsidy. To build high-quality, spacious homes at this scale, local authorities had to find ways to drastically lower material and labour costs. Decorative brick and stonework required highly skilled masons who were in short supply, making traditional masonry slow and prohibitively expensive. The policy challenge was clear. How could the state deliver these promised cottage-style estates rapidly and on a restricted budget? To understand why Pebbledash became so popular, look at how it was actually put on a wall. At its simplest, Pebbledash is a wet protective render topped with a layer of small stones, gravel, or shingle, usually between 2 and 8 mm in size. In a standard dry dash application, builders prepared the masonry and applied a base scratch coat, followed by a wet top coat. While this top coat was still wet, workers threw or pressed the dry stones directly into the surface. This differed from roughcast, where the stone aggregate was mixed straight into the wet mortar beforehand. Builders used lime cement, or quick-setting Portland cement as their binders. This thick, textured outer skin provided excellent protection against penetrating damp, especially in the cold, wet regions of northern and western Britain. But the real genius lay in what it hid. The rough texture covered visually mismatched low-grade bricks, meaning developers could buy cheaper building materials without affecting the final look. Applying render also required far less time and fewer highly skilled stonemasons than laying neat, decorative brickwork, allowing construction crews to finish entire rows of houses at speed. Between 1919 and 1939, speculative developers transformed the British countryside, constructing more than 4 million new suburban homes. Large-scale house builders like George Wimpey and Costain industrialized the building process to meet this unprecedented demand. To maximize speed and lower costs, they relied on standardized floor plans paired with catalog elevations. This systematic approach allowed a single basic interior layout to appear behind as many as 26 different exterior facades. The most popular of these options was the Tudor-Bethan semi-detached house. These homes blended rural nostalgia with suburban convenience, featuring steep gabled roofs, mock timber framing, and panels of textured pebbledash. On these private estates, developers applied the render as a deliberate design choice that combined reliable, low-maintenance weather protection with a clean cottage-style appearance. This suburban expansion spread rapidly along the tracks of the Metropolitan Railway. Under the Metroland marketing campaign, first coined in 1915, the railway company promoted new developments in Middlesex and Hertfordshire as leafy, accessible sanctuaries for middle-class families commuting to London. The pebble-dashed semi quickly became the defining visual signature of these new commuter estates. By the late 1930s, this highly efficient building pattern had expanded far beyond the London commuter belt, appearing on speculative estates in Cardiff, Swansea, Edinburgh, and across the English Midlands, permanently altering the character of the British townscape. Municipal authorities deployed Pebbledash on an unprecedented scale. The Housing Act of 1924, introduced by John Wheatley, raised government subsidies to £9 per house and extended repayments over 40 years, supercharging council house construction. Under these expanded terms, and those remaining from the 1919 Addison Act, local councils completed roughly 1 million homes by 1939. To achieve rapid delivery under strict public budgets, municipal architects relied on uniform designs. Entire estates featured repeating rows of identical, grey, heavily textured facades. This massive public output established Pebbledash as the default finish for social housing, a pattern that persisted after the Second World War on thousands of temporary prefabricated bungalows and 1950s council estates. Initially, the rough protective surface crossed both public and private boundaries without social bias. But as the decades progressed, the physical setting altered how the material was perceived. Repetitive estate layouts, changing suburban expectations, and media portrayals slowly shifted the public reading of the finish. By the late 20th century, exposed brick or smooth, painted render came to represent private suburban respectability, while Pebbledash became an involuntary shorthand for municipal estates. A simple mixture of cement and stone had acquired a class division that resided not in the material itself, but in the social structures it clothed. Solid wall homes lacked an insulating cavity, relying on bricks to breathe. Applying impermeable cement-based Pebbledash changed this. The dense render trapped moisture, while hairline cracks and failed window junctions let rainwater in behind the skin, saturating the brickwork and causing internal mold. Patch repairs rarely matched, leaving conspicuous scars. By the 1980s, these physical failures became financial risks. Surveyors flagged solid wall Pebbledash, prompting lenders to demand 5 to 10% valuation drops or complete removal. This institutional caution drove a major removal industry, stripping cement to expose original brick or apply breathable lime. If this story interested you, there is a video right here about what happened to the British Council estate. If you found this story of Pebbledash enlightening, hit the subscribe button so you never miss another deep dive into Britain's built heritage. While many developments after the 1960s adopted smoother acrylic and silicone finishes, stripping old Pebbledash grew into a specialized trade, marketed as a quick route to modern curb appeal. Yet the rugged texture remains a fixture on thousands of unmodernized interwar semis, particularly within council and ex-council estates. This survival has created a modern design tension. Where contractors see an outdated finish, conservation officers increasingly recognize original, compatible Pebbledash as a character-defining element of Britain's 20th century suburban heritage, worthy of selective repair rather than wholesale removal. If this story interested you, there is a video right here about what happened to the British Council estate. If you found this story of Pebbledash enlightening, hit the subscribe button so you never miss another deep dive into Britain's built heritage. A single street of 1930s semi-detached houses displays these conflicting choices. Side by side, one home retains its original grey stones, another is stripped to bare brick, and a third is smoothed over in modern render. These walls are physical records of a century of housing policy, construction economics, class signalling, and damp-proofing decisions. The finish chosen for a housing emergency still defines the character of the British suburb. Subscribe for more stories about Britain's built heritage. If this story interested you, there is a video right here about what happened to the British Council estate. Today, these textured walls do more than deflect the rain. They remain a physical archive of Britain's social ambition and enduring divides. If this story interested you, there is a video right here about what happened to the British Council estate. Subscribe for more.